What's up, former party people? This is Jerry, you know, the one who actually combs his hair on the A is for Alcoholic podcast. Now, if you're finding value in listening to the AIFA podcast every week and you want to support sharing it with others, we invite you to become a sustaining monthly or per show contributor. Go to patreon.com/AIFA. It's super easy and it only takes a quick moment. It's about as easy as buying one of those pre-cooked space chickens from the grocery store, taking it outside, giving it a big old kiss, and kicking it into traffic. Why would you do that? Anyway, you do you, and I'll do me. Again, go to patreon.com/AIFA. And with that, people, let's start the show.
A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism, one letter at a time.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, the presenting sponsor of A is for Alcoholic is, as always, the Green Camel Press. People have been asking me, and by people, I mean nobody. So I want to tell you what the Green Camel Press is all about. So it's me and my other business partner, and we do a lot of creative artwork. We have t-shirts available for sale. We do lots of drawings. We're working on a comic book. We're working on some labels. We are doing all kinds of cool stuff right now. The artwork that we're doing, we do a lot of these things called digital doodles. If you haven't checked us out on Instagram, that's where most of the work is showcased. You can see it all on greencamelpress.com as well, or at Green Camel Press. And yeah, so Green Camel Press is what do I always say? What's the tagline, Jerry? A design firm with an old school aesthetic in a digital age. That's what it was.
So, bringing 1994 to 2019.
Yes. So go check out greencamelpress.com. Go buy a t-shirt. Help support A is for Alcoholic. I am our sponsor. And we also have another sibling podcast, which is more of a lighthearted comedy kind of thing, called Gluten Is Not Your Problem. It's basically the life story and the musings of our friend Walter Schmidt, who is a hell of a character, to say the least. He's lived quite an interesting life, and he has some very obstinate opinions about food, life, people, manners, everything.
Yeah, all of it. And he never cries. He never cries during the podcast.
No.
This podcast does not hit the gluten is not your problem. It's not a crying podcast.
Not really. I mean, I don't want to try and make him cry, but it's he.
I've never seen him cry, so I don't know.
I don't think I've seen him cry either.
And we drank with him for years, and he didn't even do the drunken cry.
No, I did plenty of those.
Yeah, me too. We did it in front of each other a few times.
Have you listened to the latest episode?
I've been listening to that audiobook.
Okay. So the latest episode of Gluten Is Not Your Problem, we talk about all of his scars. So we went through the whole chronology of his scars, from the baby kidney cancer that he had.
Yes. Yeah.
To the putting his arm through a plate glass window to save a damsel in distress.
Yeah, he talked about showing up at my house completely covered in dry blood.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, he showed up at my house the next day, and it looked like he had poured a gallon of paint on himself.
Oh God, he didn't even. She didn't even shower up. He just showed
up.
No,
he came right from the hospital, and he had it looked like he had poured a bowl of a huge pot of broth on himself. It was crazy.
Jesus. So these, and I know this is maybe not what you want to hear on a recovery podcast, but we were all there for a lot of this stuff, and we were definitely culpable in a lot of it as well. But it's more than just that. There's lots of funny stories. It's not just This one was just about the scars. We went through all the scars because there's always an interesting story with your.
Everybody's got scars, right? Mm-hmm. We all got stories to tell. Yeah. His just are like Wes Anderson movies.
Yes, they are. It's like it's like Scorsese in a Wes Anderson movie is what it's like.
It is, yeah. He's like, this is my falcon scar from my falconeering days.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there's the one he tells the story where he was up on the rooftop fighting a guy in hand-to-hand combat, and the guy bites down on him and won't let go, like he's fucking Batman.
Yeah.
So
I know that guy. It's the same guy who punched through a window.
yes,
too.
he was punching at.
This
So
is our G is for gluten.
yes. Gluten is not your problem. Go check it out. And with that, let's talk some recovery. So
Yeah.
this week is the letter S already, which I can't believe. The alphabet's gone by so fast this year.
Yeah, it really has.
So we wanted to discuss the not necessarily spiritual versus secular, but the spiritual and secular aspects of recovery.
Right.
Because the particular 12-step that we prescribe to will tell you that the cure for alcoholism is a spiritual one, that the malady is a spiritual one. And I think that that's something that resonated with both Jerry and I eventually. Yeah. But when I was, mired in the really dark, heavy drinking days, and then just coming out of it, like just waking up and getting sober for like a week, the last thing you want to think about is God, or am I spiritually fit? What does it mean to be spiritually fit? Do I need to have a spiritual program? Do I need to pray? What is a prayer? I've tried to, I've tried to define a prayer very many times to myself, and the best thing I can do is the best that I've come up with is, it's kind of like a we talk about praying to a higher power. If it's not a higher power, it's a hope that I think, along with a little bit of work, can be possible, depending. I mean, you can't pray for, I guess you can pray for anything, but my particular brand of God doesn't just grant me
wishes.
No, it's not. He's not like Genie or anything like that.
It's not Shaquille O'Neal.
It's not.
It's not Shazam or whatever. Kazam, where he comes out and teaches you how to play basketball and shit.
No.
Mine neither. But
in the beginning, there's a lot of it is, there's the mechanics of getting sober, right? You just, don't drink. Before anybody says anything about God to you, or even discuss it. And some people don't even require it. But I know that it was something that once I was given the opportunity to think about and to write about and to try and understand what it meant to me to be spiritually fit, to be spiritually healthy, just to have a good feeling, to have, and I think of it a lot of times as energy, right? So,
right.
When I was drinking, I was vibrating super low, in the dark, really like bad vibes. I mean, you think about a hangover, what is that except just bad energy pulsing through your body, poison,
right?
Mm-hmm. And then I look at myself almost 4 years later now, where I'm, getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning and fucking hiking 4 miles up a hill and then coming back down.
Yeah.
That's a higher energy. So whatever the word is, I think is less important than the feeling that you get, Yeah. I mean, how do you come to terms with the idea of spirituality in your recovery? Is it a daily thing? Is it in the background?
It is, it's a daily thing. My approach to it is, I don't know if it's unique. Maybe it is because I am a unique little man. But when I first had to kind of accept it, because I was really resistant to it, and probably resilient too. I was like, man, I ain't having none of that. But it was like this placeholder for the unknowable. But I feel like I used it a lot in a really selfish way in the beginning, because I felt like it was a lot about trying to give up control. And a lot of my active alcoholism was about trying to control and manipulate and micromanage everything around me, and trying to make things work out to my benefit constantly. And I think when I got sober and I couldn't use the alcohol as my higher power, as the thing that I used to control and manipulate shit around me, I had to find another way to do that and realize that there was no other way to do that. So I just had to let it go. It was all fucking frozen. It was all Elsa, dude. Like I say, it's all Elsa. I had to let it go, man. And so for me, the higher power was my way of letting it go, without actually saying I need to let this go and just drop it. I would convince myself that maybe there's something else, I don't know, something else out there that'll take care of it, or maybe it'll just take care of itself. Because how many times did I not pay a fucking bill and say, oh, it'll just take care of itself, and then it went into collections? So why would it be so hard for me to think, okay, well, this situation I'm in with a coworker or with a friend or my spouse, I'll just let it go and it'll take care of itself. But I just had the hardest time. I had to keep poking at those things and trying to fix them. Whereas if I had just applied the same thing I was using in a negative way and tried to use it in a positive way, like, well, this thing between us, I can't manipulate or change, so I need to let it go. So I had to put the higher power was my placeholder, and I said, well, the bear, the universe, death, whatever it is that was on my mind in the moment, that will take care of it, you know. And so I still use that to this day. I just have to let things be, you know.
And for anybody who's listening for the first time, who is the bear? What is the bear? How do you?
Well, it's not like I walk around. I'm like, and I never. It's not like I eat dinner and I'm like, all right, we all pray to the bear now, or like bear be, blessed bear. It's nothing weird like that. It's just they had me try to come up with a higher power when I first got into that 12-step program, and I couldn't find one. I was raised Catholic. It wasn't gonna be Jesus, because the Jesus I saw in church was all beat up. He had a black eye. He was hanging on a cross, bleeding everywhere, all bummed out. Like, what the fuck, yo? So I couldn't think of anything. And then one day I came to this realization that if it was first nature, like if I went out into the woods without a jacket and there was a cold snap, I would die. And that was a power greater than me. But the nature seemed too abstract. I needed something more intense, like something like, you know what I mean? So the bear was my higher power, because if I went out in the woods without a jacket and without like bear repellent, even if I had bear repellent, the bear would kick my ass if I happened to want to wrestle him, you know, or, you know, try to pet the little bear cub.
No,
puppy.
don't do it.
Right? So that was a power greater than me. It was like this, it wasn't necessarily an evil force. It was an indifferent force that could chew me up and spit me out. And that's the way I kind of looked at my higher power, and I still kind of do. It's like, do I sit here and think, oh, my higher power watches out for me and take care of me? No, not necessarily. I really feel like it's like the universe. It's indifferent. But if you give it its respect and shit, do you know what I'm saying? Like, things work out the way they work out. It's almost like entropy or chaos. It's more like the chaos bear now. You know, like, these things have a way of working out the way they work out. And so it's not up to me to make those things work out. So now I call it the bear, because the bear's a power greater than me. No. And I watched a lot of Grizzly Adams when I was a kid.
On like Nick at Night or something?
Yeah, no, it was just on normal TV. I'm pretty old, dude. I mean, I was in syndication. We weren't getting like the new episodes, you know, but it was on syndication. KPHO TV5, dude, Southern Arizona. That's where Shout out to KPHO. What's up, Wallace and Ladmo? Arizona listeners will know that shit.
So that's so that idea, instead of thinking of it as a man in the sky or as some sort of holy light from above, it's a very much at least at first grounded in reality, just to kind of have
it's
something
pragmatic.
Thank you.
I was using a lot of pragmatism. I still do. Yeah, it's a new word I learned.
I think it's important. Again, you know, we just talk from the perspectives that we have, and I think in going through a step program of any kind, and there's sort of that spiritual aspect that everyone gets stuck on. I shouldn't say everyone. A lot of people talk about getting stuck on.
It turns people off.
Yes.
It does. And then we have a shared friend who went into the 12-step program, and I remember speaking to them on the phone, and I was like, you know, you got to be careful, because not be careful, but just be open-minded, because they're going to talk about God and use that God word a lot and all that shit. You remember this conversation. You spoke to them later, and they said, well, I don't know what Jerry was tripping about. They didn't realize I went to Catholic school my whole fucking life, you know? And like, I was trying to treat it with these kid gloves, and I mentioned on the podcast before this situation, and I was like, oh, duh, no shit, you know, because I tried, whenever I have people who are interested in coming into the rooms or into these programs that I attend, they ask me about it. Is it a cult or this or that? And I always say, no, in my opinion, there are some culty aspects to it, but it's not a cult, but there is like a lot of spirituality in those rooms, and it doesn't have to be a Christian spirituality, even though the guy who wrote it, you know what I mean, was a pretty Christian dude, and like it was kind of a little evangelical, the steps were, but you know, like they're really Buddhist too, and I don't know, man. Like, yeah, why didn't you realize I went to fucking Catholic school from the time I was born until I graduated? I was like,
That's
oh,
great.
right, dude. That shit turned me off, though. I walked in those rooms and heard it, and like, the only reason I stayed in the beginning is because it was a place for me to be that wasn't a bar.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, I was the same way. I was asked to write. We've talked about this before. I've told you
Your
this,
note,
my
right? Don't you have
dissertation.
this? Yeah.
But it was
What
just
was it,
like it was the question was what is your problem with spirituality and
Right.
God? And so I had to sit there and write this whole thing out, and it was a big, nasty, horrible. I haven't read it in years.
Yeah.
Very negative mess. And I think once I got that out, and again, it was just a placeholder. And I think sometimes that, and the other, let me back up. So it's basically your God, my God, whoever's God. It's a personal thing.
Right.
It is not, it's not a
It's
shared
that word, though.
So that word really gets people. And like you
Yes.
use the word placeholder. And I've always thought, well, we all need something to discuss this aspect of our lives. And
So God is the
God
placeholder,
is
yeah.
the placeholder. God is just the word that we all agree upon. So whether,
Yeah.
excuse me, it's a bear or a light or a spirit or
Right.
a feeling or a vibration or an energy or it's fate or it's luck or it's whatever superstition, that it may be for you. It's just
Yeah.
when we all get together and we say, yeah, my higher power, or we talk about God, and it's just a way for us to discuss it, right? It's so that we all
Yeah.
we can all speak the same language about this thing that is deeply personal.
We can express that idea with a placeholder word. Yeah.
So I've always tried to look at it that way, and as soon as I did that, and also a lot of times people will tell you when they're trying to bring you along in the program, let's get you past that issue with God. You don't have to believe. And one of the other things I was told was, you just make the decision to believe. You don't believe.
Right.
You just make that, and it's that sort of like gentle suggestion, like maybe just so we can move on to the other things. Because if you want to get sober, if you want to recover from alcoholism, which is kind of important, if you've made that decision, you've gone that far.
That's the point, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, did you crack the bottle of whiskey every single night and have faith that it was going to get you where you needed to be? And how many times was that faith destroyed nightly?
Right.
So,
Right.
one other way that it was described to me, the difference of like faith versus believing in things and trusting things is, say your car broke down and you said, John, do you know where there's a good mechanic, man? I got to get this thing fixed. And I said, oh yeah, I know my guy, such and such, Ted does great work. You should go see Ted. And you're like, okay, well, I trust John. So I'm going to go take my car to Ted. And you take your car to Ted. He fixes it up. He gives you a pretty good deal. You feel pretty good about it. It's still kind of high because, it's a mechanic and it costs money and it's going to cost you some time without your car. And then something else goes wrong, like a few weeks later, and something else goes wrong and you go, well, I guess I'll take it back to him. And he goes, oh man, that's no big deal. I'll take care of this. Boom, boom, boom. He fixes it up. He says, you know what? I'll just charge you for the part free. We'll do the labor for free because it didn't take me that long. And then you're like, wow, now I have faith that Ted will hook me up and take care of my car anytime that I have a repair that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So it was kind of described to me as like, if my car is broken and I bring it to the auto mechanic, I can get it fixed.
Yeah.
And sort of that idea of faith. Now I have faith in this thing. And so, why not continue to believe that it's going to work out? Because it has, even in the worst of times, something. I mean, I certainly wasn't doing any good for myself to look after myself. I was actively trying to kill myself, whether I knew it or not. But do you know about just that idea of we already have faith in a lot of things? We have faith in our own.
Yeah. I agree with that. Fully agree with that. Yeah. Because I love that analogy of like you crack a bottle of bourbon or whiskey, and you have faith it's going to get you to where you're going, and it gets you to where you want to get to, but it doesn't keep you there.
No.
But I think when I think about it, it's more people that fuck things up. Even in recovery, they fuck up the idea of it, especially in the rooms, in those 12-step programs. It's more the people that fuck it up than the actual concept of a higher power in of itself. There's this prevailing attitude that I really get turned off by when I hear people, and they say it because they're people. They're like, well, you can't make it out there unless you do have a higher power. You can't make it sober. And I'm like, there's lots of people who make it sober without a higher power. You can't judge what another person's doing in their recovery. Do you know? I remember I had a friend who went into the program and they worked really hard at it. And then we were talking to each other and they said, have you gone through your 3rd step yet? And I had like a couple years sober at that point. 4th step. Have you gone through 4th step? And I hadn't gone through the 4th step yet. And they were like pushing through it fast. This person had like 9 months or something. And they were pushing through all those steps. Did you do 4th step yet? And I was like, nah, I didn't. I had, it's been a long process. It's taking a while. And they're like, wow, you must be dry as fuck right now. And I was like, no, I'm not. Actually, yeah, I have hard fucking days, but I don't feel dry. I'm not over here shivering. You know what I mean? Like walking around every time there's a Corona commercial, I start crying and shit. Like I'm just approaching my way of doing it differently than you. But I feel like sometimes people get like indoctrinated with that idea, and they tend to fuck up that idea of the higher power for other people. You know what I mean? Or at least turn off new people who walk into the room and they're susceptible to things and they're sensitive. And then someone saying, this is the only way. This is the only way. And I'm like, there's other ways, man. There's other ways too, though. This isn't the only way. This is your only way, dog.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to say, this is my only way. And that always pisses me off. I always want to be like, you're fucking totally wrong, dude. Yeah.
To that point, 2 things I want to say about something I read and something I heard. So in the episode where I had the talk with Mishka Shubali, and he talks about the fact that, here's a guy who doesn't say there but for the grace of God go I. He says there but for the grace of mom go I.
Yeah.
So
I heard him. I listened to that one. Yeah.
And he also says there's a lot of us out here who, and I'm paraphrasing him, but who saw something wrong in our lives and decided to fix it. And it's really fucking hard. So give us a little bit of credit, know? And we can sit here and debate the ego in that statement or not. But it's true, I think. For me, like it is hard and we do it. And, so to say, well, if you don't have a higher power, man, you're going to be lost. You better get with the flock. And
that's kind of fucked, man. Yeah. Anyway.
So I really love that he said that too, about it's not just that. And also I'm reading the Annie Grace book, This Naked Mind.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, in the first few pages, there's some things that she says that kind of rub me the wrong way. About the way that I got sober and about the things that I believe. And then I go back and I think, didn't it tell me in this book that helped me get sober that I should let go of old ideas? And so and this is not me looking for a loophole to say that this book was wrong in any way, because I believe emphatically that it saved my life, and not just the book, but the people around it.
So do I. Yeah.
But as soon as because at first I was just sort of dismissive and judgmental as I'm reading this book and going, like, you don't know what it took. And
are you talking about the
Annie Grace book? Yeah.
Okay.
So, but then I was thinking, I'm supposed to let go of my old ideas. And so I kind of, not in a way where I was like, well, throw this book away and put a new program in place, but just that maybe be a little more open-minded, because I'm also only I don't know, 30 pages in or something like that. So I'm
Right.
going to finish the
There
book.
may be a twist. There may be a twist.
Right?
Yeah.
But just the idea of keeping an open mind is something that I got in recovery
Yeah.
and sobriety.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Yeah.
Because beforehand I was obstinate, I was stubborn. The only way I was nice to you was whether I was going to get something. And even in friendship, man, it was like, well, yeah, sure, we'll go over to Jerry's house and we're all going to drink and barbecue and it was a comfortable place to sit and eat and get drunk, and nobody would be ashamed of my behavior, right? Or your behavior or anybody's behavior. It was just sort of this acceptable, like Pinocchio's Pleasure Island, wherever we were at, not just at your house, but we could smoke cigars and drink beer and turn into fucking jackasses.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so
exactly. Yeah.
And so and so there was always this selfish aspect of it. And then in recovery, I'm like, it's not about me. Very little is about me. I was out in the woods today, and I realized, I was like, look at all this shit, all this life is going on, and even in there, and so many other things all over the world, and don't even talk about the universe, but how inconsequential I am to the lives of so many others.
You fall off, like you said, that Whitewater Summer joke about being on that log, crossing over that rope.
Yeah.
Like you fall in that stream and drown and die, that shit still keeps going.
Yeah.
Like it goes on without you. You know what I mean? I think about that all the time, John. I'll go for walks even in the city and I'll go, man, if I keel over right now, this all continues moving at whatever direction it's going. I'm just like one little tiny thing in it. That doesn't mean shit, but I'm the center of everything around me. So I'm like, well, I have to be the most important person here. But no, I'm not. I'm just a dude walking. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I'm having a hard time expressing it, but I have to agree with you. It's I don't know. But also on that point too, like you can get sober without a higher power. You can. You absolutely can. I don't know because I didn't do it without a higher power. I didn't do it without that concept. So I can't tell you it's wrong. I can't tell you it's going to be any harder than what I did. We're all different people. We all have different personalities, But the Mishka is a great example. There's lots of people out there. There's people I know personally who have had decades of sobriety who went to like maybe 2 meetings in the beginning and they're like, not doing that. And then they just didn't drink. You know what I mean? I just don't do it anymore because my life sucks. My sister Faith, and I'm allowed to pull her out on the podcast. My sister Faith is 40 years old. She hasn't had a drink in 20 years. And she's not an alcoholic. She's not at all. Faith could probably drink like a normal person, I imagine. Maybe not, though. I don't know. I haven't seen her drunk in 20 years. Yeah. Over 20 years.
Well, that's a good sign.
She just didn't like the way it made her feel. And every time she got drunk or drank a little too much, she'd wake up and have a panic attack. So in Faith's mind, Faith went, well, every time I drink, I don't feel good and I don't like it, so I'm not going to do it. And she just doesn't do it. She just doesn't. And now, did Faith have a prior drinking problem? I don't think so. I mean, she's definitely the child of my parents. You know what I mean? And raised in the same environment I was with the same genetics. We just win that lottery. But so I look at her and go, well, what makes her different than an alcoholic, right? The obsession. So then how do you deal with the obsession? Like you discipline, higher power? What is it? I think, I mean, everybody's different.
I think it's a bit of both. For me,
right.
Again, you can do it. You can do it on your own and be, again, I didn't come from that, that perspective. So I hate to speculate and say, oh, it's going to be a lot tougher. You better get yourself a sponsor.
But the thing is, I used to think that way. I did. I used to think that I would see people getting sober without the program, and I'd feel bad. Like, damn, dude, it's going to be really hard for them. Man, it's going to be tougher for them. And I'd say within the past, year, I've really changed my perspective on that, you know? And I don't know if I'm going to walk away from the rooms. I like them. I don't go as much as I used to, but I like the camaraderie. I like being in there. I like hearing the messages. I like using what they say and using their concepts as a tool and sharing these concepts of overcoming this obsession we have, this really we are obsessed with this thing, and that is to feel different than the way we already feel.
We're still obsessed. We're still talking about it years later.
Right now, we're sitting here, man. This could be a whole podcast. We could do our own gluten podcast where I tell you about how I doctor up my ramen every day and shit.
How do you doctor it up?
Dude, an egg, I do some chicken breasts, some green onions and garlic, and carrots, and cilantro every once in a while.
You should put
Just
little
fry that
sesame
all up.
seeds on there too.
Bam! Doctored up ramen, right? That'd be a whole podcast right there. Just Jerry's. Oh, and the other day I was eating ramen and it said 190 calories on the back per serving, and then I realized this whole time I've been eating the ramen, and there's 2 servings per package, and I've been eating the entire serving, not eating both servings, not realizing it. So I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cheap, man. 200 calories just for some noodles. I'm good. Not realizing I've eaten like.
So all this
way more
time
than
you've
that.
been eating mad ramen.
It's been a fucking lie, dude. It's been a lie.
You had faith that it was taken away from you.
It was taken away from me, dude.
Um,
So I think discussing the secular aspect of it is, I wouldn't say it's disingenuous of us. I just don't think we have the experience of the secular aspect.
Correct. Not from the very beginning. I do believe that there are some secular or aspects of recovery that because everybody has a different anchor, I feel like, in
Word.
recovery. I think some people that I've met are super spiritual, and that's what keeps them sober. There are some people who go to meetings, and that's what keeps them sober. There are some people who work with others, and that's what keeps them, that's their anchor. Or whether it's working in hospitals and jails and hospitals and institutions, And so there's all these different ways that you can find an anchor to your sobriety. Spirituality is one of them, but there are all these things that you can do, like helping other people is just in any way is huge. So
Yeah.
what are those? What are the secular things that I do? I mean, I get up and I write every day. I did a lot of writing in the beginning, specifically about my alcoholism, my sobriety. The other things that I get up, even stuff like making sure I get enough exercise these days, because if I don't, I don't feel well. So I don't vibrate on that higher vibration that I like, that I feel inspired by, and I don't feel inspired every single day, but I like to. So if these things help me get to that point, if it's lift the dumbbells, go for a run, and write in my journal, then I'm going to do those things every single day, because I want to find that higher vibration of inspiration and trying to give back to the world in general that I feel like I've taken a lot from, and not that I do it out of guilt for past transgressions, but because it makes me feel good to help people. So I think finding something that you can anchor yourself to in sobriety and in recovery, regardless of what it is important. Finding that aspect of it that you really love, that you get excited of. I mean, for you, maybe it's doing a podcast, Jerry. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't have to be going to 7 meetings a week. And
well, for me, like personally, what I was gonna say was also it's looking at finding the reason why you got sober and why you continue to remain sober. And then in the beginning you say, okay, well, I got sober because I was sick of feeling like shit and my wife was going to leave me and I was suicidal. And then over time those reasons start to lessen, right? Like you hit kind of this sweet kind of safe spot over a while and you're like, okay, these big crises have now been averted. I have new tiny crises I got to deal with, or new different problems, leveling up from bad problems to good problems. And I think just reminding yourself of those things is, for me personally, has helped me out a lot. And then from there, once I find that sweet spot, it's other things. I have to remind myself, okay, I've gotten past all that shit. What am I capable of doing now? And what was I not capable of doing before? Because I had that obstacle that I put in front of myself. It's like you, right? Like we were talking before the podcast how I love your Instagram because it's all motivational shit. It's like, my ankles hurt, but I'm gonna keep walking. And I was teasing you, being like 1 foot in front of the other, man. I'm gonna get out in nature and fucking breathe in the air, and like the cynic in me wants to tease you, but only it's all good natured. But like, I'm really proud of you because John 5 years ago wouldn't have done that shit. You wouldn't have even have expressed that in a public forum because you would feel self-conscious about it. Do you know what I mean? So even within your own life, you're seeing your possibilities, you're seeing what you're capable of, and you're you're becoming more confident. You're like, this is who I am. This is what I do. I enjoy this. Yeah, I don't give a fuck if you laugh at me for enjoying it. Like, I enjoy it. I'm going to go out in the woods and wear a funny hat and
that funny
do my
hat
shit.
has saved
You know what
my
I mean?
neck,
Save your ass.
'cause
Exactly,
it's hot
dude.
and sunny out there, but yeah.
I put on sweatpants. I put on a jogging suit that matches, and it's like a dad jogging suit. And I don't even jog most of the time. I'll jog like a quarter of my walk, and I'll just walk like 3 to 4 miles in the mornings, and I feel great. I love it. I'll listen to podcasts. I'll listen to music. I get in my head and think, and like I never, even sober, I would have never have thought of doing that. You know, it's like almost you start hitting those sweet spots where your life starts changing. You see your possibilities start opening up.
Yeah.
That's another way to do it, I guess, in a secular sense, you know, like, okay, I got the bad shit out of the way. There will always be bad shit, but I got the major bad shit out of the way, and now what can I do with my life? Like, what the fuck can you do with your life?
No,
Maybe you like working. Go to work if you like it. Do you know what I'm saying? Maybe you like fishing. Fuck yeah, go fish. Maybe you can catch better fish because you're not all shit canned hungover, you know? Like
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think, you know, when you talk about walking, and this is something that I started walking when I was, you know, I think I was almost 50 pounds heavier last August.
Yeah.
And
I noticed, you've been walking for a while.
And so, and I would just do it maybe I'd get out for a mile, and I wouldn't do it every day, and I'd want to do it every day. And there was this whole process of like hemming and hawing and putting on my shoes and then sitting outside and then trying to get there. And it didn't happen every day, but I kind of wish that I would have logged more. And I love to look back on I used the little, My Hike, the
My Hike app or whatever it is.
My
Plan
Hike.
My Hike or whatever, or
Yeah,
My
Map
Hike
My
Pal,
Hike.
or Map My
Map
Hike.
My Hike is a great one, and
I couldn't understand it.
well, it's once you get
Explain it to me. Yeah, when we get off, tell me, because I fucking erased it. I like fucking got rid. I was like, fuck this app. I got rid of it.
It's always, you just got to log it up. But I would suggest to anybody who wants to see real tangible difference is to log whatever on a piece of paper or however, go out for a walk and just walk as long as you feel like it. And if you don't feel like it after a block, then come home. But write that down.
Yeah.
And then if you're getting sober and you're in some sort of program of recovery, or whether it's your own or with a group of people or whatever it is, then just start logging that in. Go for a walk every day or every other day, and just see how much farther it gets the further along in recovery. Because in August of last year, I was barely walking a mile, like maybe 3 times a week.
Yeah.
And then today, I couldn't wait to get up and go for this. I only went for 4 miles up and down the fucking mountain, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, who am I? Who is this person? So I think these are real tangible things that I can look at and know that there's proof that what I'm doing is the right thing.
Right.
Jerry and I talked about this earlier, and I have to share this because I just had this moment, this epiphany, this evening. I was laying on the bed, and I was kind of just rubbing my chest. I was just laying, whatever. I'm just staring off and getting ready to do something else, and I was like, "There's this bump in the middle of my chest. What is this? Is this a tumor? Oh no!" And then I realized I haven't felt my sternum in like 20 years.
Yeah, dude. And I like related immediately because I went through that about, I'd say 7 or 8 months ago when I started losing all the weight. Maybe longer. About 8 months ago when I dramatically lost the weight. Not dramatically, but lost enough weight that I could feel it. And I'm like, same thing. I'm like, Megan, I think I have like a calcified cyst or something. And then my wife felt it, and she's like, "That's your fucking rib cage, dude. Like, that's your sternum. That's what it's supposed to do." And I'm like, I couldn't feel it over the titty, dude. Like I said earlier, I just had one big titty right there. I had like a tire.
Mine was like just a warm roll of cookie dough that would just lay right there, you know?
Both were sensual. That's what I'm saying. In our own aspect, yours is warm cookie dough, and mine was a big old titty. Like, it's very sensual. So, you know what I was going to say, though, listening to you talk about these hikes and stuff, too, is you are building new aspects to your personality. You are becoming this new person. And I really felt like when I was drunk all the time, I just stayed the same motherfucker. Yeah. Like, there's no depth to what I was doing. I drank, I was drunk, and I was hungover, and that was it. You know, like, and I was mad or sad, or it was like one of 4 or 5 core emotions, but I wasn't building a new aspect of my personality. It's like just running on that hamster wheel.
Yeah,
You know,
then
and
you're
I
right.
watch you, and you're like this guy who's like, dude, you're out there. You're like, I'm finally moving in the world, you know? It's great.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
stoked. If you want to see my Instagram stories about the hikes, you can find me at Sonic John
They're
000.
great. It's like, it's either hiking or weird neighborhood animals like cats and dogs and deer, or like
The
slow
occasional
motion.
meme.
Slow motion get gladiator shots
Yes.
through like the grass with a gimbal. It's really pretty.
Those are my favorite. But yeah, you're right, man. Like that's something that you're right. There was no growth. There was no breadth to my personality. My personality was, how funny and clever can I be? How can I cut down the person next to me to look funnier and cleverer? How drunk can I get, still have a good time, and be allowed in somebody else's house? And then when that ended, it was like, well, fuck it, I'll just go back to my house where there were no rules, and I could just lay in bed and drink, or I would lay in bed. There would be times where I would know, God, I remember these too. I would have like a long weekend in between work. I was working 4 nights a week at the time. And so that very last day, I would be so hungover, but I was so afraid to drink that day because I couldn't have a hangover for the next day of work.
Yeah.
So I would be hungover. I wouldn't even get out of bed till like 7 p.m. some of those like Tuesday nights. And I would just lay in bed and like watch a movie on my computer or something like that, or the 30 Rock DVDs that I had, you know. And it was just so awful and hellish, and just this like shivering, you know, it was horrible. And there was no time to, like you said, develop another personality trait or develop another interest or become anything.
Exactly. Explore what you are, you know, like. And I get it, man. I suffer from clinical depression. Like, I know that it's dark and it's hard, man. I know that I don't want to explore nothing sometimes. I don't want to fucking explore anything. I just want to explore not going anywhere, you know, just laying there. I've been there, but I don't know, man. Just, I don't think I would trade it back again. I mean, for the temptation of feeling good for like a couple hours, you know, it's just not worth it to me anymore. I think that's another thing that keeps me sober too, is like, I like myself now the way I am. I mean, man, I wouldn't trade it back. I mean, that's why we're doing this podcast, right? So we can make sure we don't trade it back. But
well, I mean, it's just I think another thing is, for me, and is accountability, right? So if I'm having a bad week and I'm feeling like I need to have a drink, I have people I can call, and I think that's an important thing, is to have a good support group, even years down the road.
That can be your higher power, your support group. Absolutely. Yeah.
But I know that for, you know, if I get on the mic with you and I drank, like, I'm gonna have to be accountable to that. Or if I've
thought of that.
If I just was like, yeah, we're not doing it this week, you'd probably be like, what's wrong? Something ain't right, you know. So I think that's another one of those things that's not necessarily a spiritual aspect. You know, that's more of a secular aspect, is having some accountability for your actions. And again, not so that somebody can wag a finger at you every time that you're doing something bad, but I think it's important to be held accountable if you want to change and if you want to grow. And
right. And the growing is like the next level shit, right? Because like I said earlier, you go in at first, you're just dealing with what you got to deal with on the bat. You don't got to grow yet. I hate to throw out what you have to and don't have to do. I'm talking to myself, right?
Yeah.
I was telling myself, you don't have to grow yet. You don't have to get big yet. Just fucking take care of your shit, dude, and make sure you can live life without having to do that shit. And then you can like level up eventually, you know? Because it's still every day I got to tell myself, I'm living life without that shit. And yeah, I guess it's like a little navel gazing. You know what I mean? Like just constantly being like, I have to live. But it's not a sad thing. It's just like, I live my life without this shit. You know, like I don't need that shit. I don't need it. And there are some days where I'm like, man, I wish I had some of that shit. Once every 6 months or something, you know, but man.
I've even felt too, after the last time that I had my little mini depression,
Your depression D minor.
Yes, my depression
Yes,
D minor.
It's so fucking dramatic, dude. I can tell you're a Morrissey fan because of that shit, right? It's just like very
Absolutely.
flamboyant.
I wear
my
black on the
depression.
outside because black is how I feel on the inside.
So flamboyant, dude.
So what I then realized was that it has an expiration date. Okay.
Yes.
So the next time it happens, I'm gonna just hunker down and I'm just gonna let it run its course like a flu or a fever. I don't get the
That's
flu and think I'm
basically
gonna
what
be
it
like this
is.
forever.
Yeah.
You know, next time I get
what it is.
it's an emotional flu.
With some people, I imagine with
Yeah.
other people it's kind of chronic, but I imagine those people should probably seek therapy and counseling and maybe get on medication for it, But yeah, I think typically it runs its course, Absolutely. It's like an emotional flu.
That's
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm just thinking, and again, the recovery time is faster and faster and faster every day, and it gets exponentially. Just even when we talk about this all the time about being angry at somebody and then getting over it much quicker instead of holding on to the anger.
Oh yeah, fast. My wife pissed me off today, and I was over it in like 20 minutes. Not even. I was over it in about 15 minutes.
All right.
Whereas she even at one point I was still a little pissed, and she looked at me and she's like, "Hey, I totally misspoke. I didn't mean to talk to you like that. Like we had a disagreement about something really fucking just nothing. It was nothing, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And typically I would have been pissed at her all day because I got my feelings hurt, and I would have been mad at her all day. And she said, and I was still a little butthurt, and she was like, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I came at you kind of wrong, and I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Please don't be mad at me all day." And then at that moment I was like, you know what? I don't have to be fucking mad at you all day. Like, you straight up just apologize. Like, we're cool. Like, you didn't mean it. You were just in a moment. We were in a moment,
You just gotta Elsa that shit.
I gotta Elsa it, so I Elsa'd it, right? But I mean, back in the day, I would have been like, "Fuck no, you were mean to me. You hurt my feelings. I tried to do something nice. You're being a dick about it." But nah, I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I do that. I have those moments all the time. I get it. Yeah, we're cool. You're cool." She got mad at me because I threw away a fucking 40-pound box of sand. Dude, I went to the dump today, right? And we went to the beach, and she's like, "Let's get Olive some sand." And this was back in 2015.
Okay.
2016. So we got all of this big Tupperware full of sand, right? And it was like good 40 pounds of sand. And Olive played with it. She was a baby, so she played it like twice, didn't give a fuck. And then took it out recently and like filled a kiddie pool with it, and then played with it for like an hour and was like, she's a kid, so she just runs off, doesn't give a shit. So today I'm going to the dump, and it's in the pile with all the dump stuff. So I like strained myself to get this Tupperware container, took it to the dump, threw it in the dump, super stoked. I was like, "Fuck you, sand, you're out of my life." And came and told her, and she was like, "Why'd you throw away a brand new Tupperware container?" And I'm like, "Really? You're mad at me for a $4 Tupperware container and 40 pounds of sand?" I'm like, "We can go get more sand if you'd like some more sand, if it's that important, But she was just having a moment. She'd just gotten off of work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She was like, in my mind, I was like, "You threw away a perfectly good thing." But I guess the point of all that is that I would have held that longer. And it's too much. Can you hear my dog barking?
Yes.
He's fucking going wild down there. That's new to the podcast. You people can have that one for free.
If anybody's got any sand, just email us, please, so we can get some sand to Jerry.
We'll give it to the barking dog downstairs. Yeah, eat it. I'll feed it to him in a funnel. I'm just kidding, y'all. I'm just kidding. I love dogs.
He's a sweet dog. What were we talking about? Sand. Oh, letting it go.
It's my long sands. I can go pound sand, basically.
So go pound sand. So here's another thing that I have found that I would put in the secular column. Although, let me just say that in my own experience, having a spiritual aspect to a lot of these things has been very helpful, has been important. In some of them has been crucial. But talking about forgiveness and forgiving yourself is really important. Forgiving yourself for the things you've done in the past that don't exist anymore. And that's easier said than done. And if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're thinking about all the shitty things you've done, and you're like, "Well, these two jokers are just going to tell me to forgive myself. How can I forgive myself? I'm such a piece of shit. I'm such a miserable, pathetic, excuse of a person, and
Right.
these are voices I've heard in my own head.
Yes, me too.
I would say, be gentle, be kind, don't give too much merit or credit to that voice, and go for that walk that I was talking about before. There's something magical about just walking and without any purpose or direction, and just
Yeah.
being able to clear your head of those
Yeah.
things and finding a way to forgive yourself. And it goes a long way to, being able to forgive other people too, and having them forgive you so that you can move on from those things. What else is secular versus? I don't want to say versus, but more of
Yeah, it's a battle. The battle of sobriety, secularism versus spirituality.
I just feel like, for me, like, I wonder what my anchor is. I mean, is my anchor? I would say it's a pretty big spiritual program. I don't go out and do a lot of praying, but I think it's pretty important to me, like being out in the.
Yeah, me too.
No, I mean, just being.
No,
out
I
in
just
nature.
pictured you like at a park bench with your Subway sandwich, just being like, "Dear God, bless us for this bounty," while you're like waiting for the bus in your Jimmy John's.
praying over my Jimmy John's. Cold
Yeah,
cut
it's even
combo
better
or
than
whatever.
Subway.
No,
Cut
well,
that Subway part. We're going all Jimmy John's.
So speaking of which, so I've read this, that it's important to bless your food, because like, it's energy. So if I say whatever it is I'm eating, if I say these are good, nutritious, healthy calories that I am taking in, then you give that vibration to the calories that you're taking
man.
in, and then you become one with the vibration.
I mean, it's definitely a viewpoint. Yeah, it's definitely a viewpoint.
You should try blessing the bag of Doritos you sit down with and see how you feel.
I only eat
afterwards.
7. I eat 7 at a time, dude. I'll count out 7 and eat them like a man who's on an island dying. Just each Dorito, I just suck all the fucking flavor off them. Because I only eat 70 calories. Sometimes I'll eat the full 15, but usually I just eat 7. 1,550
weekend.
calories. That's on the weekend. Get a little wild. I'm having 15 Cool Ranch Doritos.
Oh man, there's how many calories in 7?
150 calories for 15. So
Okay,
it's
10.
about 10
Got
or
it.
11 of Dorito,
Got
about
it.
more or less.
Well, I mean, bless your food.
You're
or
gonna
don't.
go eat 7 Doritos now. Watch
I'm more of a
But
corn
yeah,
chip
bless-
kind of guy when I get my veggie
plain.
burritos, but
the Juanitas. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I bless my food. I guess I'm grateful for it.
That's-
I think at this point I'm just more like glad I have food to eat. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just happy that I got this. Some people don't got it. And
there was a time where I didn't have it, and I remember
Yeah.
like being broke as fuck and
yeah.
and just
Me too.
scraping money for beer. We pulled change out of the couch cushions and went and got all the recycle from the laundry room just to go, and all we did was buy beer and chicken. We got
Yeah,
KFC.
fried chicken at KFC, which is expensive, man. We must have been high rolling with. We
That's
must
a lot
have
of
been
beer cans and
flush,
change.
flush with deposit money. Yeah. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's just what device works for you. There's no wrong way to do it. The only wrong way to do it is to drink. I think that's the only wrong way to do it, right? I mean,
If sobriety is what you're looking for,
if
yeah.
sobriety is what you're looking for, if you're looking for inner peace or like being able to accept yourself, there are other ways to do that. And they can be through therapy or through a spiritual program or through a group program that has nothing to do with spirituality. It is always super helpful to be with a group of people who suffer from what you suffer, because you can relate. You can give each other tips on what works for you. Like that whole sobriety recovery meme for alcoholics about eating candy. I relate to it.
What's
like
that?
I have
What's the meme?
The meme is just that we all
the
fucking
idea.
eat candy in the beginning because our endocrine system is all super jacked from all the sugar we've been drinking, the fermented fruit. And so I didn't realize how much I loved candy until I stopped drinking bourbon, and I was like, I'll fucking fuck some chocolate covered cherries up, man. I will. You can only have one. 50 calories for one.
I used to get the big bags of M&Ms, and by big bags,
Yeah.
I mean the big ones.
The pillowcase from Costco that had just a zipper on it.
Yes. I
Yeah.
would get the zipper bag of M&Ms, and I would put them in the little drawer next to my bed, and I would wait until the day was over, and I would,
Yeah.
I would take
Just
them.
it's almost like your vodka, man. You like
It was.
replace your vodka with sweets. But I feel like being around other people who can relate to, and you can relate to, most importantly,
Yes.
is going to be super helpful. So I think any way you decide to stay sober and is great. And if you want to like level it up and try to recover as a human being and recover parts of yourself that you never knew, or you want to get back again, then yeah, there are other ways to do it. There's tons of ways to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We have lots of fucking resources now. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also, so I wanted to mention this and ask you about this. It's all about how you define sobriety too, because I know people, and I'm going to be talking to a gentleman here soon, and he produces Kevin Hart's radio program, and he was from what little I understand, and we're going to find out more about him, but he was a severe alcoholic and addict, and I think there was something he was talking. It was either about ayahuasca or some kind of thing. I'm gonna ask him all about it. So it's like there's different ways to define your sobriety, right? You can say, well,
Yes.
I just don't want to drink, or when you read articles by Mishka Shubaly and he talks about, well, I take mushrooms twice a year. Like, I would not consider him a addict or an alcoholic or somebody that I can't relate to. I find, he's somebody that I relate to very much in sobriety, even if his definition is different from mine. So,
Right.
How would you? I just want to ask you about the marijuana maintenance that you.
I don't
went
know,
through.
man. Like, well, I mean, that was so brief, though. It was like
Yeah.
3 months, 4 months, I mean, I can't even remember how long it was. I didn't use marijuana in an addictive sense in the beginning. It was just to alleviate the anxiety and like the sleeplessness and the withdrawal in general. I probably should have gone to a doctor. I mean, I wasn't having major DTs or anything, but I was like, I had no money for a doctor, and I was like, they're just going to give me benzos anyway, and I don't want to take benzos because I liked pills too. I mean, I wasn't like a pill addict, but I love me some Percocets, so I don't know, because I'm not the boss of anybody's definition of sobriety. But I also will think kind of funny of you if you're like, yeah, I'm sober, I just do coke all the time. You know what I mean?
Right?
Like, and I'm like, well, your definition must be really different than mine. And I'm not going to get in a car with you or anything. Like, I'm not going to let you drive me anywhere. But
I'll
But
give you a
I'm
thumbs
not-
up, man. And
I'm not in charge of your sobriety, because I know people. Yeah, I think I do know people who still smoke marijuana and are going through recovery, or people who still do psychedelics and are going through recovery. It's not up to me what you do. That's up to you. But
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know, man.
I think that even in those moments, right? So that maybe that's part of the process. I don't know if marijuana, cocaine. Some people could say that I was abusing M&Ms and salami. And
Yeah,
now,
well, I mean, but it's up to you at the
and
end
ice
of
cream.
the day.
when I was killing myself with ice cream.
Right.
So
But you found that to be unmanageable, so you're like, I'm done
I
fucking
got-
around with ice cream.
I
It's
did.
fucking my shit up. Yeah.
So I mean, but I still feel like that was part of the process, because it was still an addiction. It was a food addiction that I had for a very specific food. Well, it was sugar, and it was you know, dairy and all that stuff. But so again, it's all part of this process. So if you're finding yourself, I would suggest that if you're finding yourself wondering whether or not you're sober and you want to quit drinking, but you're also doing something else, don't beat yourself up about it just yet.
Yet.
Well,
I know what you mean, though.
but my point is that if you're using something in a way, like if you have taken the time to look at your life and don't like the way that you were using alcohol and you want to change that, and if I started I quit alcohol, but I was eating candy and I was eating ice cream to the point where I was throwing up in my mouth in my sleep, because I would eat 2 pints of ice cream and then I would go to bed and I would wake up with sugar in the back of my throat, puking it up. So at some point I had to say, I'm using this ice cream as a crutch, and this is an addictive behavior around this substance, regardless of what that substance was. It was an addictive behavior that was mirroring my alcohol behavior. So I then have to look at that thing. Now, if you had asked me to, I need you to quit drinking, I need you to quit eating ice cream, I need you to quit with the M&Ms, I need you to quit this, I would have been like, you're fucking out of your mind. It just wasn't going to happen. That was just the process I had to go through to get there. So eventually I had to beat myself up a little bit and say, this is not okay. It became unmanageable.
So. And that's I like using that language. Yes, we crib that from the rooms, but it's the greatest way to put it is, can I no longer manage my life with my actions? Be it drinking or cocaine or jacking off or do you know what I mean? Playing Fallout 76 for 32 hours straight or whatever.
That's not what you did this weekend? No,
man. I've only played for like 4 hours maybe 5 hours over 2 days.
Okay.
But still, like I see myself in those habits of video games sometimes, and I have to back out of them and be like, yo, I got to take a break because I'm kind of obsessing over this shit. Because it is a problem with obsession, right? And once those obsessions start affecting your life, impacting your life in a super negative way, you really need to reassess and maybe pull back. But one thing at a time, like you said. If you told me that when I got sober, if someone said to me, you're not allowed to smoke two puffs off of a bowl so you can go to sleep every night, you know what I mean? And you can't smoke cigarettes anymore, and fuck drinking those two fucking rock stars. You can't do any of that. I'd just be drinking again. Be like, well, okay, never mind. Because even with the marijuana maintenance I was going through, I wasn't smoking like a joint or doing dabs. Like my wife would smoke pot, and I'd literally take the bowl and hit it twice and then go to sleep. It wasn't even like a middle of the day thing. So for me, it was. And maybe I'm justifying my own way on a podcast in front of dozens of people, but whatever. It's I don't know how I feel about it because I'm not the police of someone else's sobriety.
No.
But if you're fucking getting high, like I won't let you drive my kid's school bus or whatever.
Exactly. So it's just. Yeah. But I just wanted to bring up the point that it's really about the definition and what you're trying to achieve.
It's a weird definition, right? And if someone's telling you, I don't know, man. Even then, if someone's telling you like, oh, well, you're not really sober because of blah, blah, blah. I mean, you really need to question what they're saying. And really, it's none of their fucking business unless you're paying them rent or they're like, you're married to them or something. You know what I mean? Exactly. Unless you have some dude in the room is like, well, you can't do that. You're just like, you know what, Jack? I don't know you, man. Like,
I gotta go.
I guess I'm going to another meeting.
Exactly. Jack, is that like your dad swearing? Jack, I gotta go. Listen, no, Jack.
I stole that from, I don't know what I stole it from. No, my dad swears in Spanish, dude. Like exclusively almost in Spanish.
It seems like you can get away with it a little bit better.
Yeah, well, he's good at it. He speaks fluent Spanish.
And I want to, one thing too. So I'm reading this book called Born to Run. And it's all about ultra marathon. Like, these people are fucking insane. They run hundreds of miles, right?
Right, yeah.
And this guy's talking about these trail runs in the Copper Canyons in Mexico. I think that's where it's at. And it's just like, it's hot and it's dry and it's rocky and it's hilly. And I was having some trouble getting up one of these trails, and I was thinking about it, but he talks about the rocks on the trail. And there are two kinds of rocks on the trail. There are the ayudacitos, the helpers. Did I say that right?
Ayudacito.
Ayudacito. And then there's the chingoncito. There's the little bastards.
The little bastards, yeah, the fuckers, dude, the chingoncitos.
The chingoncitos. Yeah. So you have to know which is which, right? So if you're going on the trail, there's some rocks that you can actually use to leverage and spring off of and get a little more speed. And then there's the ones that are all kind of gravelly and slippery, and they'll fuck you up, and you will fall on your ass or on your face.
Chingacitos.
The chingacitos.
The little fuckers is literally what it translates to, little fucker, yeah.
And sometimes you see a little ayudcito, but it's really a chingacito. So you got to be careful, right? So that would be, if anybody was asking, that would be my advice on the trail of sobriety.
Shit! Keep going.
To look for the little helper rocks that work for you on the way up to the top of the hill. and make sure you step lightly, and you can grab onto these ones, and you find those things, and just stay away from the chingacitos, the little gravelly ones that just want to pull you and drag you back down and scrape up your knees and fuck up your face. Don't listen to them.
And sometimes what you think will be an ayudacito could be a chingacito. Like you're smoking weed and it's helping you, and then the next thing you know, you're all you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
there are some little rocks that switch their meaning as well. Damn, I like this. I'm stealing that.
Thanks again for listening. Our music, as always, is by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.